What, a child that is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth, story do you have? A kid who was relentlessly bullied at my school for years sued the district and got an upper six-figure settlement. BRB, filing a lawsuit. I mean, that's the short version of how it went down. He had years of documentation of going to the principal, teachers, counselors, even the superintendent. They all either did nothing or made empty promises that they didn't keep. He had documentation for it all. The highlight was when the lacrosse team jammed a lacrosse stick up his butt not once, but twice, and the only consequence was one of the kids being suspended for 2 days. Edit, I should also add that this isn't a rural school in the Deep South. It's a suburban school located in a liberal part of New York. Edit 2, no, this did not happen on Long Island. I'm sad to hear that these stories are more common than I thought. The highlight was when the lacrosse team jammed a lacrosse stick up his butt not once, but twice? I don't think they were there to play lacrosse. Judging by the type of people drawn to play lacrosse, I assume this is exactly how you play it. Heard lacrosse described as like hockey, but the rapists are richer. Someone I used to have in a support group I once helped run for sexually victimized and abused young men shared with us what happened to him. I'm not going into the finer details of it, but the broad stroke is he was being victimized by a TA. He went to other teachers, school admins, and even police. No one believed him, and he even got punished for making it up to get a staff member in trouble. It destroyed his personality. He became bitter, resentful, spiteful, and generally hateful of other people. He was improving his demeanor in the group, but from what he tells us, he just wanted to watch the world die at the time. A couple years later, that same TA tripped down the stairwell in one of the side hallways of the school, and he happened to be nearby. He saw she was badly injured and likely had broken bones and was bleeding from her head. Instead of helping her, he literally stepped over her and pretended she wasn't there. Security footage showed he wasn't the one to push her, but when asked why he didn't say anything or get help, he simply said that last time he tried to tell people about something involving her, no one helped, so why would they this time? I was lied to by Hour, and it led to me not getting a promotion. I basically put them in a position where I couldn't be replaced and messed with the Excel codes I made for them that saved managers 6 hours a day. I didn't correct what I knew would get us high fees since it wasn't technically my job. Then I quit. $700K in fines, nobody trained to do scheduling, department without anyone to run it, and additional work for the managers was the damage. I started getting calls to help them fix it. I'm sure you can imagine how well that went for them. Don't duck with the only person in the office who practices the black arts of Excel formulae and macros. It will only end badly. They tried to copy and paste the table, ha ha ha. Those sweet summer children. I recently turned someone's multi-day reoccurring task into a 5-minute one, and gave him strict instructions not to touch anything other than adding data to the cells I had highlighted. Got a call a few days later with him in a full panic. I think he did a normal paste instead of paste values. A solid hour of making him watch via Teams while I fixed it left him very much convinced that he has to follow my instructions to the letter. Haven't had a problem since. One of our junior engineers made a spreadsheet for me that saves me a full day's worth of data entry. He saw what I was doing, said, "It doesn't have to be like that," and fixed it for me. I still thank him every chance I get, and I do not touch anything he told me not to touch. It feels great to be able to do it for someone. The problem is that Excel is so easy to break. You can follow all the instructions and still get hit by a page of errors because one tiny thing went wrong. It sucks to be the person who then has to fix it, because you have no clue what happened to break it all so badly. One of my friends in high school was a major overachiever. Stayed at school or work as much as possible, to the point where he may have spent an hour or less at home a day. He would always deflect questions about his home life, but confided in me that it was bad. Calling him the black sheep of the family would be a major understatement. His family had some money, not millionaire or billionaire but better off than most, and they told him from elementary school he would always be useless and never amount to anything. He is making bank after getting through college and finding a bomb job with a big pharmaceutical company. Meanwhile, his father's company, that has been in the family for a few generations, got picked apart by the government. Someone tipped them off that he was lying on taxes, hiring immigrants for next to nothing, hiding OSHA violations, and much more. As the dust was settling and the damage was really being seen, my buddy drove to his former family home and dropped off a file. The same file he gave an attorney that gave it to the government, and only said, "Who won't amount to anything." Stone cold and absolutely ruthless. If you want to see a man achieve some seriously good personal life shit, gimme a hell yeah. Hashtag hell yeah. I met this kid while in junior high. Knew him his first year in high school. Back in 7879. Remember the movie Carrie? He had that for a mother. He was super religious and had to pray multiple times a day. Carried a large Bible with his school books. Wore old-fashioned formal clothes, 1950s style haircut, and horned-rim glasses. His mother punished him because she saw us talking when he got off the school bus. I guess I didn't pass the friend standard. He was so unsocialized and awkward. He was grateful to speak with anyone. And I didn't make fun of him. I guess it got to be too much. He didn't come back to school for the sophomore year. I later learned that while his mother was sleeping, he doused her with gasoline and set her and the bed on fire. She lived. And they just disappeared. I never heard of him again. How in the heck did she not die? Firefighter checking in. More often than not, the cause of death in a burning victim is from damage sustained to the lungs and airway. This next part may be graphic and also is just my speculation, but I assume that he lit her on fire. Giant fireball ensues from the initial fumes igniting before quickly dying down due to the sudden loss of fuel, fumes, and at this point it's just blankets, clothing and flesh keeping the fire going, but all these fuels have a higher ignition temperature than gasoline fumes unless other room contents were actively ignited in the initial flash. Also, gasoline won't typically release a lot of smoke on its own, so she's not breathing that in, but the initial temperature was probably stupid hot. Plus, while thrashing, could be seen as a poorly performed stop, drop and roll, and screaming, can't inhale while actively screaming. She may have just lucked out and missed the window where one inhale could have singed her trachea and caused it to swell shut. Definitely don't recommend. Edit, sorry if this made you uncomfortable. Here's Ray Bleach. Thank you, appreciate a professional explaining those kinds of things. There was that nuclear revenge post about a guy ostracized by the entire town, I think cause he was born out of wedlock, and after getting out of there became an inspector of some kind. Eventually he was given a list of factories that needed reviewing and one needed to close. The factory in his hometown was on the list. He goes there, inspects, they act all buddy-buddy thinking they're safe from closure. Boy, were three wrong. Every infraction, breach of safety, incorrect anything went into his report. The whole town basically was built around that factory, and when it shut down the town was desolate and dead within a few years. I know the exact one you're talking about, popped into my head the moment I read the prompt. Link? Enjoy the read. Holy shit, what a story. As a kid who was beaten for years by mother and stepfather, and dad knew this but wouldn't help me in the slightest way and treated me horribly, I can honestly say that as the kid who would take care of an ailing parent, I will now, as an adult, tell that now ailing parent that they are on their own to fend for himself. Me 100x over. My dad recently made a crack against my younger sister when she volunteered to care for him in old age. He mocked her and tore her down, then basically said I was the only one cut out for it, and my response was, that sucks because you're not moving in with me and I'm not paying for anything. Better go back to little sister and ask her to reconsider. He did and she didn't. He has now been preemptively abandoned by all three of his daughters. Here's hoping my brothers got him, cause I sure as duck don't. Here's hoping they don't. He can live with the consequences of his actions. Unfortunately, the girls got it bad so the boys could get it good. He earned a spot with them, just not with us. Thankfully, none of us siblings resent each other. For 53 years, my father gaslit me and always made me feel like one day he would be a real father. Well, he's in his 80s and has Parkinson's and is married to a terrible woman, and I no longer help him or my stepmother in their old age because they are such terrible people. Now, they have to find other people to give them rides, to lift things, to listen to doctors, etc. Oh, I also informed my stepmother that the day my father dies and while she is picking out a casket, I will march into the IRS to report her for committing tax fraud with my father. There is no statute of limitations and I want her to sweat every time she hears him cough, sneeze, or moan. F them. I also informed my stepmother that the day my father dies and while she is picking out a casket, I will march into the IRS to report her for committing tax fraud with my father. There is no statute of limitations and I want her to sweat every time she hears him cough, sneeze, or moan. That's the most creative village burning I've seen from this thread. Brutal. Thank you. Just remember. You can't hurt anybody more than their own imagination can. You can use it in war, You can use it in business negotiation, and you can use it for artistic purposes like Hitchcock in Psycho.